Hey everybody, welcome aboard Plasma 1945 with an analytical video that is going to go down into the analysis of just how many aircraft get splashed on Growling Sidewinder every day. What I did is I took the busiest 3 hours in 2023 thus far, the least busiest 3 hours in TACview, exported them, combined them, and averaged out for a 6 hour period, and then averaged that out to a whole day. You will be shocked, you will be amazed, you will be stressed, and you will realize that everybody gets blown up a lot and that we can't afford and sustain a real world Growling Sidewinder PvP server because there's not enough money in the entire universe to pay for that many aircraft. So without further ado, it is a slaughterhouse and a massacre. So this is the 6 hours of busiest and least busiest flight times, and we can see that there's a lot of Hornets, 212 Hornets that get splashed, 418 F-16s, and about 120, 130 Su-27s. If we extrapolate these numbers to a full day, that is 4 6-hour periods, we're looking at around 4,000 aircraft that get destroyed. Weird enough, yes, you're going to critique me, why is there less aircraft taking off than getting splashed? I don't know. This could be because they're not registering or what have you, but not sure. This is from TACview, but the numbers speak for themselves. So here is a 24-hour period. There is a lot of planes shot down, and most of them are F-16s because they are the meta. 1,672 F-16s are going to get splashed on average every 24 hours on GS. Second place, F-18s, 850 abouts will get splashed. Next up, we've got the F-15, the third most popular aircraft, with about 430 splashes. Tomcats account for another 200. Pretty busy out there. As for the Su-27s, J-11s, and Su-33s, we get a little bit less. We get about 600 of those. So interestingly enough, either the time that I picked was not busy for flanker boys, or maybe, well, for some reason or other, they weren't too occupied. Interestingly enough, also, it is the Harriers and the A-10s and the F-14s that were coming back and landing consistently. Why? I'm going to guess it was because it was probably the ETF Aspen and Dormouse flying those, and those guys usually come back and land. But let's put things into perspective. We know how many aircraft get splashed on average in a 24-hour period. Well, what about that compared to the total worldwide air forces? For example, if at the rate of F-18s that get splashed daily on GS, that would account for 7 times the current count of F-18C aircraft active in the United States Navy. F-15s would account for almost double of all the F-15s in the United States active use, and the F-16s come close, 179%. But that's nothing when it comes to flankers, because there's not that many Su-33s ever made. There's only 18 that I've got on the books, and 733% more of them get splashed than have ever been manufactured and put to use. Russian active fleet of Su-27s, well, there's 101 in the world, and about 198% of those get splashed daily on Growling Sidewinder. And that's when I'm not flying, because usually if I'm flying, that number is going to go up. Also, the number of the F-16s that get splashed will go up too, because I'll get those guys. Now, this is pretty severe, but it gets worse. What about the cost? What I've done is I've gone out and I've averaged out the costs, and you will be shocked. The costs I've pulled from open sources and averaged out for prices for whatever aircraft I could find. So if we look at the numbers, every 6 hours on Growling Sidewinder, $35.8 billion worth of aircraft get splashed and destroyed. How's that for a tasty pickle? Now, when that comes averaged out to a 24-hour period, we're looking at 143 billion, that's with a B, dollars. If you're not shocked yet, get ready for the numbers. There is a total of $28 billion of F-18s that get destroyed daily. $48 billion of F-16s that get destroyed. Flankers are pretty cheap, well, and there weren't that many flying at the time that I pulled this data, but about $20 billion worth of flankers. How insane is that? As for the MiG-29s that are really cheap, we're looking at about $3 billion of those that get shot down daily on Growling Sidewinder. Now, just like any other analytical nerd, I love my stats, so let's compare a daily expenditure of aircraft only. This is just aircraft, not maintenance, nothing else, for worldwide GDPs. That's country's gross domestic product. If we look at it, Growling Sidewinder sits somewhere between Hungary and Morocco, and not too far behind Portugal and New Zealand. However, as you can tell, the population of those nations is in, 5 million, 10 million, 37 million in Morocco, which on an average year produces about $142 billion as of 2020. Well, in Growling Sidewinder, we blow $146 billion in, 24 hours. Pretty intense. And if my numbers slide a little bit here and there, my apologies. I tried to do my best, but I got overwhelmed with all the spreadsheets. Maximum nerd out. Okay, so we've got these numbers that we figured out. Let's talk missiles. Oh yeah, because you can't have a PvP server without missiles. And as you can see, there's a lot of missiles that get fired. So we get about 1,000 splashes or so, but we have 2,100 missiles that are fired daily. And if you're not surprised, 1,300 of those would be AIM-120Cs and about 80 more AIM-120Bs. There's also a heck of a lot of AIM-9X Sidewinders that are used. And again, I'm not sure what was going on, but there wasn't a big flanker representation on the days I pulled the data. But, maybe a couple of hundred Fox 1s that get used. But hey, that's what you have when you have a community that flies F-16s as your meta platform. Now, of course, all those missiles cost money, so what do they cost? Well, $7.6 billion. That's right, and of course the bulk of those are the expensive AIM-120Cs, coming in at $6 billion of missiles. Russian missiles, not too much, 200 million, 400 million or so. AIM-120Bs, 350 million. Not too bad for a 24-hour period. So let's put it all into perspective. Let's say we have $143 billion for aircraft, 7.8 billion in missiles. Well, in 12 hours on GS, the entire budget of the Russian military would have been exhausted. But don't worry about it. By the end of the day, the budgets of India and UK would have been met. Don't worry, just another day later, we've got the total amount of Chinese military budget that's exhausted. By day 6, we've already exceeded the US 2021 military budget. And we're not even talking about the black programs that are top secret. That's probably another maybe 10 billion. I don't know. I don't know if you guys know how much the US spends in black projects. Yeah, you're not going to tell me, and I don't want you to tell me. OPSEC. All right. By the end of 2 weeks, on Growling Sidewinder, $2 trillion. That is slightly more than the entire world military budget that's expended. Leave a comment if you expected it to be that much. But wait, there's more. We haven't even talked about the fuel consumption. That's right, Plasma got nerdy and he recruited Stryker and the rest of the gang to figure out just how much fuel an aircraft without fuel tanks takes, multiplied by the number of aircraft that were flown during the 6 hours, and then extrapolated to a 24-hour window. That is 20 million kilograms, 44 million pounds, or 25 million liters of JP4. Surprisingly, that would only fill 8 swimming pools, which is pretty crazy for an Olympic pool. I didn't expect it to be that big. Wow, so Olympic swimming pools are pretty big. Something that's a little more tenable that we can talk about are the KC-135 refuelers. Each one of those takes 202,000 pounds of fuel. We need 220 KC-135 refuelers to meet those numbers. That seems off. Maybe it's 2,000 KC-135 refuelers. You guys can check my numbers and tell me how wrong I am. But let's say we have 220 KC-135 refuelers. In this picture here, we're looking at 8 in total. Now, in all history, there was 803 built, and US Air Force had 400 of them, of which about 160 are on active duty. We would consume the refueling capability of all aircraft that are actively used by the US Air Force. Now, how about those M975 HEMTs? These little buggers are pretty tough and they pull in a lot of fuel, 9,500 liters, which is, it's a good amount. But we're doing here 25 million liters of JP4. Well, how many HEMTs would that be? That's a lot of HEMTs. A lot of HEMTs. A lot and lot and lot of HEMTs. Did I tell you there was a lot of HEMTs? Yeah. To capture this, my 4090 went to 10 FPS. But I did get 2,700 HEMTs onto the runway, each with 9,500 liters of fuel, which should give us the right number. You guys should probably check my numbers, because this seems off. At least those KC-135s. But anyway, guys, that is the cost of doing business on Growling Sidewinder. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, the shocking truth, and the conspiracy theories. And next time, try to land your plane. Save the government a few dollars. Plasma 1945 out. Make sure you share and subscribe.